Well, good morning, everybody. Today is April the 3rd, 2020. Oh my gosh, what an amazing, amazing day, especially in light of the power of what tomorrow is all about. Because tomorrow is April the 4th, 2020. That when you do the numbers, we've got 444, because in numerology, the 2020, you don't count the zeros because zero is God, but you count the 2 and the 2 in 2020. So that gives us a 4, very powerful number. And 4 is, the symbology of 4. And I am not by any means a big numerology person, but I know enough just to be dangerous. And 4, when you have 4, you have 4 legs to a table, stability, 4 pillars, 4 corners of a home, stability. And one of the things that has been happening to our planet is we have been unstable. So we have been operating, like a 3-legged table, and things are getting torn down so that we can then build something new on solid ground, build a house on rock instead of on sand. So tomorrow, if you understand astrology, if you understand astronomy, it's a massive, massive portal where energy is coming into the planet, energy that is supporting the ascension of all of humanity. And I'm so happy to see you there, Miss Elisa. It's been a while. So sweet to see you. Let me just give everybody here the opportunity to see each other. If you guys turn on, whoever wants to turn on your camera, you'll get to see each other. And if you don't want to turn on your camera, that's perfectly okay. But it's always fun when I get to see sweet friends like Gabi and Doris, and of course, David and Lorelai and Mina. Sharon, fun. Miss Kat, how fun is that? All right, well, let me get into today's presentation because it's pretty jam-packed. So today we're going to talk about God's laws. So when we operate under God's laws, we literally are operating with a 4-legged table. We're operating with a foundation that is solid, a foundation that is built with 4 solid pillars. So when we begin to understand what God's laws are, and begin to recognize that they apply the same to everybody. If we all live by those laws, we will live in harmony. But because we've been operating by man's laws, we have made the human ego, that the part of us that is really truly designed to have been the servant to the divine being that we are, but it became our master. And it became our master because it began to operate from fear and separation. And in its own need for self-protection, we have created the imbalance that we have on the planet, because in separation, we cannot hear that which wants to bring us back into connection. So let's talk about God's laws. And when I say God's laws, I want you to be responsible for shifting the word God to something that feels comfortable. Because too many of us have been taught God's laws. I know I grew up Catholic, and God was not a loving father. It was not always. It was a wrathful father most of the time. It was going to punish me, and it was already determined that I was sinful, so I was going to go to hell. So it took me, I am going to say probably out of my 17, 18 years on my spiritual journey, I probably spent the better part of, I'm going to say 10 years, cleaning up my relationship with God. So I changed that word because I understood it to be the creator of all that is. So I called it creator. Then I went through a period where I called it spirit. I called it, the great spirit. I called it the universe. For a while, I just called it energy. I called it intelligence. I called it so many different things while I was cleaning up my relationship with the name God. Once, obviously, I cleaned up that relationship with the name God, then it doesn't matter what I call it because it knows what it is. It does not need a name. And as a matter of fact, when I had an encounter with it, it asked me to call it an acronym, which is GSOL. I'm going to put it on the board. And what GSOL stands for, let me make sure you guys can see it. What GSOL stands for is that God is the source of the energy of love. And it wanted me to have to be able to bring the word God that I had already cultivated a relationship with. And it also wanted me to bring in the recognition of what it is, which is energy. And that energy is what everything is made of. So it is the source that permeates everything. And when I understood that that source that permeates everything, being one with all of it, is love. It's pure love. It cannot not be anything but love. So let me share with you some of the things that are fundamental for us to understand if we are going to operate under God's laws. Because if we don't operate, or if we cannot operate under God's laws, is because we don't understand the attributes of what God is. And this is what I want to share with you, these attributes. So to recognize, to really truly accept God in the sense, the universal sense, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, you've got to recognize that God is, it just is. If there is one energy, if there is one source, then it is. So when we understand that God is, which is something that the Course in Miracles, which I'm a teacher of because I'm a student of it, teaches that God is, period. If we accept that, there would be nothing to fight against, because there would be no religions that define God this way, God is this, or God is that. God is, it would be the fastest track for us to get back into world peace. And when we accept what God is, then we begin to understand that it is one. It is pure oneness. It is one with all that is. Then some of the other attributes that we have to get comfortable, I'm thinking I might change my markers, but I probably won't, is that we begin to understand that that one energy, or that one essence that God is, has to be energy. If it's in what's solid, if it's in what's liquid, if it's in what's gas, if it's in what's unseeable, you know, like the air that we breathe, then it must be pure energy. And we have been taught by Einstein that energy equals the matter that we see. So we know that energy is what makes everything. And scientists, quantum physics has taught us that. So most of us don't argue with that anymore. What we argue with is that we're energy, but we accept that everything else is made of energy, but we haven't gotten to the place where we 100% trust that we're made of energy. If we did, we wouldn't have these problems in the world, because we would know that everybody else is the same energy. So we would treat everybody with reverence, because we would know we're share the same substance. The other thing that we need to understand about, you know, God being what it is, it being one, and it being energy, is that it is eternal. It was never born. It will never die. Why? Because God is. So there's a permanence to this essence. But something else about God is that even though it is, well, not even though, because it is eternal, and because it is forever expanding, which is why it is infinite. When we really get that God is infinite, that it cannot be anything but infinite, forever expanding. And when you study the stars, the moon, those astronomers that is their job, they keep seeing, you know, keep building these big telescopes. They keep going out to the farthest reaches of the universe, and they never come to the end. It's like it just keeps moving. When we first began to look at the stars, we thought that we could map it out. And then we began to see, well, they're moving. So there's rotation, there's something going on. And then they began to see, well, there's more stars. We got to keep adding more to it. We got to keep building bigger and stronger telescopes to be able to see them. That's why we don't use today the same telescopes that Galileo used, because it keeps going and going. We need stronger and stronger telescopes to keep going further out into space. So when we understand that God, let me make this a little easier to read. What it had me call it, diesel. That, yeah, I can see it better here. When we understand that God is, it is one, it is energy, it is eternal, it is infinite. In its infinity, it is nothing but pure potential, pure possibilities. anything and everything can come of that which is infinite because it has no limit. When we get that what God is, this energy that is, this energy that is infinite, it is creative. Everything that it creates, in whether it's in gas form, whether it's in solid form, whether it's in liquid form, it doesn't matter. However it creates it, it has to have three components for this to operate. And let me share what those are really quickly because they're very simple. You're going to recognize all of them. It is love, it is joy, and it is peace. The reason, and I'm sure I don't have to explain this to you, but I'm going to share it for the purpose of this video in case somebody comes and watches this later that maybe isn't quite as familiar with this, but I recognize a lot of you there. But when you know you're one with everything and you create it, of course you're going to love it. When you know you're one with everything and you love it, of course you're going to be at peace with it. What are you going to argue with? It's your creation and you're made of it. So you would not be arguing, you know, if God creates the moon and the stars, what need would there be for the energy to argue with the moon or the star when it is what it is? So inside of that, being loving all that is and being at peace with all that is because it's one with it, joy, happiness, it's its natural expression. Because when you are one with what you create, you enjoy what you create. You are inside of joy because joy is the natural attribute of what you are beholding that is your own creation. You know, I know when I made my babies, when they came out of my womb, which is like, I know I didn't do it by myself, but when they came out of my womb, I was totally enjoying beholding something that I loved so much. And there was such peace inside of my heart because that baby and I were one in that moment. Even my husband, the baby and I, the doctor, the nurses, we were in a state of oneness because we were all beholding this beautiful bundle that had been created that enters into the world, and you cannot experience anything but love, joy, and peace. It just becomes the natural thing. And these are God's laws. These are the pillars. This is the foundation of what everything has been built on. So what the heck happened to us? Well, the creative source of all that is that created us to create in its infinite wisdom, because it loves us unconditionally, it allowed us to have this one thing. It gave us free will. And free will means that we can do whatever we want to do with anything here. We can create whatever we want to create. Our souls are infinite. They're not going to go away. Because we are eternal, we're always going to come up with, well, because we're eternal, we're not going to go away. Our souls live forever. So let me put that there. We are pure soul. Everything is an expression of the divine. Why? Because it's creative and infinite in possibilities. And because we're infinite, there's no birth and no death. So this infinity allows us to reincarnate. So we keep going around and around, lifetime after lifetime. We come back in, we create new things, we have fun, we enjoy it, we leave. Because we are eternal souls, we are operating out of something that is changeless. And this changelessness is what keeps us in total complete alignment inside with the truth of who we are. And it is like the GPS system that everybody has. We all have that voice. The Course in Miracles calls it the voice for the Holy Spirit, because it's basically God speaking to itself when it's in the form of a tree, when it's in the form of a bird, when it's in the form of a human, a cat, a dog, or water, or air. Whenever, again, and it's not whenever God is in something, it's all the time God is in everything. The Course in Miracles says God is in everything we see. So when you recognize that oneness of all that is, all 8 billion of us humans are one with this planet. We are one with the animals, with the plants. We're one with the minerals. We're one with each other. We are one human body. So what has happened to us? For that, we need to go to that E = mc². So when we were created, we were given free will. In our free will, we get to decide how we want to incarnate. So we incarnate as female, male, this lifetime, next lifetime we might switch it up. Some lifetimes we might want to be gay, some lifetimes we might want to be American, another lifetime we might want to be African American, we might want to be Jew, we can choose whatever we want. And the reason we can choose to be anything we want, again, is because there are no boundaries, there are no limits to that which is infinite. But the mess that we are in today is because we have stopped recognizing that what we are is energy. We have stopped recognizing our infinity. So everything that goes with what source, God, creative universe is, we have been trained out of that. Now, the indigenous people know that. They have known that forever. They operate from that, which is why the indigenous people, when left alone, when left in the Amazon, when left in the bush in Australia, they do not overpopulate, they don't kill themselves, they don't create banks, they don't create structures, buildings that are not in alignment with the area. And they operate inside of a reverence of cooperation, collaboration, and that's why they remain forever. I don't know if you realize this, and you can look this up, but the Aborigines, it has been determined through scientific research that they have been on this planet exactly as they are, where they are, as one continuous living culture for 40,000 years. Never, ever, ever have they experienced the craziness that the rest of us are experiencing in the world. So what happened? Well, when we had free will, we began to systematically, even though our indigenous people taught us this, when we, in our first incarnations, we knew that, but over the years, little by little, we have been focusing on each other as separate. And when we focus on each other as separate, we begin to focus on the physical. We begin to focus on what we believe matters to our safety. So we focus on the matter that each other is, the physical part. We focus on the body. And when our focus is on the body, now, instead of God is all of us, I am all by myself and I am me and I need to protect me. When we operate from the I need to protect me is because clearly we have moved into separation. When we move into separation and there's two of us, well, we operate in duality. When we operate in duality, we operate in the realm of right and wrong. Somebody's got to be right, somebody's got to be wrong. There's good, there's bad, there's me, there's you. I got to be right, you got to be wrong. That game of duality plays itself out only when we identify with ourselves as just being just these bodies that we see. When we focus on the bodies, what we begin to do is to disconnect from that internal source. We begin to no longer speak to it, connect with it, receive guidance from it. We do an intuition. Musicians receive songs. It's coming from source. Scientists receive formulas. Einstein was a perfect example of somebody who recognized that those formulas that came to him came through him. He wanted to stay connected to those miracles, which was something that wasn't in his head. And then all of a sudden, nobody taught it to him. And all of a sudden, he knows something nobody else knows. Where does something that he didn't learn come from? Where does a song that's never been come from? Where does poetry that's never been, a painting that's never been, where does that come from? Well, it comes from the God that is infinitely creative, always creating through us. And if we allow that portal to stay open, it will flow through us. And when it's flowing through us and we're aligned with it, we feel love, joy, and peace. It's so joyful when you have an inspiration. It's so joyful when you're in a state of co-creation with source and you're at peace with it because you're one with that movement. But when we move into that realm of duality, what begins to happen is that we begin to exercise our free will to will ourselves separate from God and separate from one another. And when we are not willing with God, instead of having free will to feel free, in alignment with God, we use our will to create separation and put ourselves in bondage. And when we put ourselves in bondage, and let me use one of my little people. When we put ourselves in bondage, our thought system that tells us that I am just a body, all that it does is it puts us in a box. So no matter what you think about somebody else, you can't box them in and force them to think that they are that. You can't do that to them. When we have a thought system that's in separation, it boxes us inside of that thought system. We are the ones who cease to be free because now we're believing something that causes us to feel separate from everybody else. So we are protecting ourselves. This is why we experience fear. Fear is nothing more than I have disconnected from my truth, and the fear is an indicator that I'm coming up against a belief. Oh, I'm afraid that I'm going to get the coronavirus and I'm going to get sick. Well, if you have the fear you're going to get sick, you just bumped up against the belief that is not true according to source. Because in source, if you're energy and you're infinitely creative and you're eternal, you're not going to die. Your source is eternal and changeless. Your body may cease and will cease to be here because an infinite, eternal being is not interested in only being one thing for infinity. That would not be creative. That would be a single use of creation. What the hell would be the point of being creative if you're not constantly recreating? So I want to ask everybody, I can see those of you who have your cameras on. Does that make sense to you? Will you shake your head and let me know if that makes sense? Cool. All right. So this is why little children, when we're still little and not fully boxed into an idea of separation, when we still love all the little kids in the classroom, we're all 4, 3, 5 years old, and we're still in a state of innocence. We're still in a state of not feeling separate from anybody quite yet. We do know we have a mom and a dad, and we know that there's, siblings, grandparents, but they're part of our family. So there's a oneness there. It's when we begin to be taught that we're separate and different, when we begin to get told you did something right, you did something wrong, that we begin to disconnect from our creative abilities. Because when you start protecting, it's hard to be creative. Because you're cutting the flow of creativity, because you're deciding what you are. There's no room for something else to inform you of what else you could be, because you're defending your idea of who you are. Oh, I can get coronavirus and I'm going to, I could get sick. I don't want to get sick. You have just defined yourself as somebody who can get sick. There's no room for being somebody who is unlimited in its well-being, unlimited in its health. I'm not saying you don't take the proper precautions. If you are led to putting a mask, put it on. If you're led to washing your hands, however often you need to do that, that is okay. This aligning with source is not about you denying that you have a body. It's about you knowing that you have creative abilities to inform your body of what you prefer to have. But if you're in self-protection, you're preferring to protect. So you're preferring to believe something can hurt you instead of that you have power to transmute whatever it is that you don't want in your experience, because you're the creator of your own reality. Now, we've heard that so many times, but we lose that the minute we go into fear. So back to why is it that we experience such fear? Why is the world the way that it is right now? And I'm calling this activating miracles, because we have to activate the memory of the truth of who we are. That's what a miracle is. We're shifting our perception from believing that I am less than how God created me, that I am apart from God. And religion has done a wonderful job of putting God out there, creating God in human's image, a dysfunctional father. I had one of those growing up. And oh my goodness, so it just puts this idea in our mind that God is not only male. So where's the feminine energy in that? Where's the maternal, nurturing energy in that? So God becomes this wrathful, punishing being. Well, when we grow up with that idea and we're stuck in our own little prisons, it's hard to go to the creative source and ask for real help. Please remind me of who I am, because we're afraid of what God is, which is why we experience fear all the time, even if we're spiritual. And when we're spiritual or religious or, even agnostic, even atheist. When you're identified with that you're separate and there's something else that has power over you, you live inside of an isolated sense of self. That isolated sense of self is what we refer to as our ego. Our ego is nothing more than all of the thoughts that we think. It's a conglomeration of thoughts. So when you think those things, all of those things is what you defend as your truth, is what you operate from, because that is what you believe you are. But all of that denies God. So when you are operating in denial of God, you might think it in your head, but if you don't feel it in your heart, you've cut yourself off from the truth of who you are. And when you are speaking, using your throat chakra to speak what you're not, you cannot actually feel what you are. And God's laws dictate that because God is, it is one with you. It has to be. You cannot not be that. It is pure energy, which means it's what we're made of. And because it's eternal and infinite, it is always inside of us. We always have access to it. If you're not quite ready to acknowledge that God is in you, God is in the flowers, God is in your pet, God is that puppy that you love, God is that grandchild, which I know Angela's here. God is that in that grandbaby. God is in nature. God is in the woods. Go for a walk. God is in the ocean. It's in the stream. It's in the lake. It's in the clouds. It's in the sun. You can connect with that source, the creative source of all that is, regardless of what you call it. If you begin to cultivate a real intimate connection with the creative source and decide, creator of all that is, you created everything. All I can do is create a small idea about who I am. Please inform me. Please tell me, tell me, why did you create me? Because your mom and dad didn't really create you. Your mom and dad had sex. Creation happened because in those bodies is the infinite pattern that continues forever. That infinite pattern. If your mom and dad could create us, if mom and dad could have the power to create us, they would get pregnant the minute if anybody decided to do that. But why does that not happen all the time? Why are some people not able to have children? Because it's just not part of that plan. So who's in charge of that plan to further creation? Well, it would be God. Now we have to be willing portals and have that happen. So we have to be part of the process, because God is how we are the portal through which creation in human form extends. But when we operate from our human laws, the ones that the egos create, the laws of separation of you deserve it, you don't deserve it, you are good, you are bad, I decide for you, I'm the judge, I'm the jury, you're the prisoner, you're going to go to jail, I'm the politician and I'm going to tell you your laws according to me. I'm the mom and you're the child, I'm the father, you're the child, or I'm the authority figure and you're the one who has to subordinate, be it a teacher or a boss, be it a student or an employee. When we operate inside of the laws that humans made, which are just pure duality and it just separates, when we operate under those laws, we begin to mess with creation. Now, not that we can ruin this planet in terms of it's going to go away because of us, but what happens is we ruin our environment to be able to enjoy this planet that was given to us. God in its infinity, being eternal, we will be gone. This humanity can be swept away if we don't play nice with each other. If we don't operate by God's laws, it'll be really easy. We can use one big, what do you call those, nuclear weapons, and we'll all be gone. We could do that. We can destroy ourselves, and that's what happens when we operate under human laws, because when we operate under human laws, all we can do is create boxes and atrophy what God created free to express itself and extend. So just as a pond, let's take a pond somewhere. We'll go to the Dead Sea. Everybody is familiar with the Dead Sea. So the Dead Sea is a sea where water is not flowing in and out of it. It just holds whatever rainfall comes to it, whatever flows into it, but it doesn't go out. So the Dead Sea is a pretty stagnant sea. You can look at a pond that is pretty stagnant. Most of us would not want to swim in a pond because ponds are Well, pretty yucky water. So when we begin to believe only the thoughts that are in our mind, we atrophy our potential. We become like ponds, like the Dead Sea. There is nothing fresh, nothing new, because we're not allowing creativity to come in. We're operating like a Xerox copy, regurgitating the same thing that we know over and over and over again. When we do that, we become dead inside. And especially now, we're at the time of coming upon Easter. And we're coming to a point that we have to recognize that we have had messengers that have been coming in. Buddha came to tell us, don't believe the thoughts in your mind. Jesus came to teach us, you're not just a body. What you are is eternal energy. He was crucified. People saw the body crucified, and he, in his love for the beings that crucified him, and because he was at peace inside with it, he knew, well, I'm creative. This is just a lifetime. I'm eternal. Then in his knowingness, in his process of being joyful, he just said to the person who hammered him to a cross, I forgive you because you don't know what you're doing. That's what unconditional love does. When you know that what you are is the energy that animates you, your relationship is primary with the energy, secondary with the body. When we operate by God's laws, we create a relationship with the truth of who we are. We begin to cultivate a curiosity that allows us to question if what we're believing is true. And really, the only time you need to question if something is true or not is when you experience fear. If you're not in fear, there's nothing to question. If you're not in fear, you're free. But the minute the fear comes up, it's like you shut the gate. And as soon as you bump up against that fear is telling you that you can't survive on the other side. You're not going to be okay if you cross that barrier. You're not going to be happy if you do something different, because we have created a sense of happiness from conformity, from repetition, from what feels comfortable, and it is to stay the same. That's why we don't like it when things change. We don't like it that we've been sent to our rooms and everybody is in their houses quarantined. We don't like that. We're used to going out and doing our thing. Well, look at the fear around that. Why are you afraid that you can't go out? Some of us will be afraid because, well, lost my freedom. Somebody's telling me what to do. Well, you let your ego tell you what to do, and you don't rebel against that tyranny that's going on in your head, but you don't want somebody telling you what to do because you don't realize that you're free inside. It doesn't matter where you are for you to experience your freedom, because wherever you go, you take your soul, which is infinite and eternal, operates from love, joy, and peace. As Nelson Mandela taught us, 20 some plus years in a jail cell, he didn't lose his freedom. His body might have been contained behind bars, but he didn't lose his freedom to know the truth of who he was, to find his peace, to recognize, okay, in this lifetime, this is just where I am. And he surrendered to where he was, as Jesus surrendered to the cross, as so many have surrendered to their lot in life because it is well with their soul. Their minds are not pushing against what is. Their minds are in alignment. Okay, God, what creative use of this body is going to take place through me? For some people, it will be in jail. For some people, it will be through cancer. For some people, it will be through a crucifixion. For the majority of us, it is simply through making a decision to no longer believe the laws of man. And what this coronavirus is showing us is that there is a serious virus, but it's not out there, it's in our head. And that virus is nothing more than a belief system that tells us that we are not what God decreed we are. So to learn God's laws is to begin to question, get curious about what you've been taught, because what we learned that made us believe we're not what we are, we must unlearn it. We must make the choice to let go of what is not true. Because when we operate with truth, we are in alignment with all that is. Now, humanity as a whole is in the process of ascending. Why? Because the creative source of all that is, infinite in its creation, wants to extend. Well, humanity cannot extend when we're operating inside of a confined belief system. So what is the coronavirus in reality? It is the expression of our desire to expand. And the coronavirus, when you begin to think about this thing that activates fear, it's also activating something that we all need, which is connection. It has caused us to feel disconnected from out there, but it has caused us to feel connected inside. It has put everybody on timeout. Everybody is in the same place. There really aren't too many people that are experiencing a whole lot of differences. We're all pretty much realizing that we're all feeling pretty much the same one way. We're all experiencing having an opportunity to question what's going on. So what is happening is this world that we created, built on sand, which is totally, completely not stable, is falling apart because the creative source of all that is in its eternal quest to expand is causing us right now to make a choice to move through our limitations. So what are these fears that we have to explore? The fear of that I'm not going to have enough money, the fear of that I'm going to get sick, I'm going to lose my body. We have to look at all of those fears so we can begin to say, I'm not going to believe that, because the ego is the solidity of a thought system that we have agreed is the truth of who we are. And when you say that is what my truth is, you will not accept the actual truth because you're believing a perceived truth, a truth that you see from your side, because the Jews have a perception of God, the Christians have a perception of God, the Muslims have a perception of God. Which one is the truth? Well, they're all true to the perceiver, but even in those perceptions, they have misperceptions about what God is, because the infinite source of all that is, that gave us free will, does not dictate that we have to pray on a certain day, that we have to bow a certain way, that we have to wear certain outfits. That source gave us free will, so we are free to interpret whatever is happening in any way that we want. So when we're operating from man-made laws, somebody has decided what is right and wrong, and if we don't do what is right according to them or according to our agreement with them, we are going to experience fear because we don't want to be wrong. So the Course in Miracles is teaching us that we have two ways of thinking. There is the wrong mind, which is the mind that's been conditioned to believe things that are not true. And then we have what it terms the right mind, because those terms are familiar to us, the mind that has completely aligned with God. God, what would you have me do? You, the creator of the universe, knows everything. Give me guidance and direction. Inspire me with your creativity. You who create everything infinite, I know that I am eternal. So in my eternalness, let me free the energy of the love that I have, because you know what happens when we get all confined in our ego mind? What we are blocking is all the love, all of the energy of love that we are is stuck inside of us. So when we begin the process of opening up our mind, healing our past childhood wounds, the places where we experienced trauma that caused us to go into protection, when we went into protection, what we did was we shut love inside. So we are looking for love outside of ourselves because we don't remember that it's in us. And we don't remember that it's in us because we're so busy, with our armor on, not letting what is meant to be infinite and eternal extend. We don't let it flow. So we are at a point in the world right now today, by God's infinite creative plan. Thank God God's got this and not us, because clearly we've made a mess out of this. But thank goodness we have a creative source that wants to expand. And to expand, it is forcing us to see the fears that have us confined. So we are at a place where we're going to have to do what is necessary to go into our little cocoons, begin to explore, get curious about these thoughts that activate fear, begin to unlearn what no longer serves us, and the bulk of what we know does not serve us, and begin to allow something creative and fresh to enter us. And as we allow the creativity of the Creator to enter us, what begins to happen is a desire for connection with one another. When we begin to take down the walls and we begin to eradicate some of our fear, I'll leave a little bit because most of us, while we have a body, we're going to experience a little bit of fear until we don't. But when you can begin to take down the walls, you're going to feel more comfortable to go out. And when you start going out, you actually don't go out as blue, you go out a little lighter. When you go out a little lighter, you explore, you start connecting with other people that come out of their boxes, you'll come back to the safety of your home. You're not going to lose your, your bedroom, which is the first, your first protection when you're an adult. The first protection when you're a baby is in the womb, and then your second level of protection is your crib, and then is your room, and then it's your house, and then, so on and so forth. But so as adults, we come back to our bed, we got our little room, we've got our little house, we got our little job, our community, and all those things that help us feel safe. We don't have to let go of that, but we have to let go of believing that what we are is not more powerful than a body, than a room, than a house, than a job, than a government, because what we are is the energy of the source expressing itself. When we take this time out and begin to question what is not true about us, and we begin to unlearn those made up stories, made up by other people, that's where they came from. You cannot trace any of the human-made beliefs to God. It's not possible, because when you can trace every single belief to a source of a human that made it up. Before that, it's God's laws that are equal for all of us. But when we begin to feel free from the confines of our fears, the natural thing is to begin to communicate, to want to connect. When you connect, you collaborate, you co-create, you begin to realize that it feels better to be free. And when you are free, you actually are operating from something within you, something powerful, assisting you. Because when you really truly are free, that is when you are willing to surrender to God's path, because the creative source that created everything actually has a really clear idea of what is best for us in our human form. Because before we incarnated as the changeless soul that we are, we had a conversation with God. We decided in this lifetime, I'm going to come in as Lina. I'm going to come into these parents. I'm going to use the portal of those two people to come in. I'm going to show up in a Latin environment. I'm going to be, I'm going to be whatever it is that I decide. I'm going to be this cute. I'm going to have these experiences. This is the stuff that I want to work through. This is going to be my abilities. And because I came in from a previous lifetime where I had done, I guess, a lot of this spiritual work, and came in with a relatively not so solid box around me, I was able to break free from my box. And it's allowed me to remember the truth of who I am, so that now God just informs me. And what it informs me is, okay, let's go help free the other brothers and sisters that are stuck in their little boxes, mental boxes. So that's why I teach. And you know why I have so much fun doing this? I enjoy what I do, because all I'm doing is teaching about love. And when I teach people how to connect with the love that they are, it creates world peace. Hello, isn't that a fabulous job to have? I mean, I really believe that I've got the best job in the world. And the cool thing about that is that it is an infinite job, and every one of you could have that job too, if you so choose to do that. If you choose to be what you are, you will not be able to stop the expression of love to emanate from you, because you won't have a solid mental structure that has you believe that you should be in fear. Do you see how this works? Isn't this exciting? But what we have to do is not to choose between the body or energy. We're not asked, not at this time in our evolution, we are asked to take both and bring them together. We are at a time when we are not here to ascend like Jesus did and have no more body. And Jesus still communicates with us 2,000 years later. He doesn't need a body. That Course in Miracles is channeled. Lots of information is being channeled. The Abraham, Bashar, Cryon, so many channels are giving us information. Why? Because the source of all that is talking to us all the time. It's a matter of whether we want to hear it or not. But we are asked, for those of us who are operating still at a denser level, we're asked to merge, to accept, number one, our divinity, to accept that what we are is already whole and complete. It cannot be missing anything. And in this lifetime, express all that you are, because in another lifetime, you're going to be something else. So don't sweat not becoming what you want to be. Instead, use your power to let go of what you're not, and then you'll be informed. You'll be able to recreate yourself. We cannot have butterflies until we have caterpillars first. So no caterpillar is asked to become a butterfly until it has gorged itself on being a caterpillar and it enters into the slumber that allows it to then dissolve into being a butterfly. All of us have the opportunity to be that butterfly, but we have to be willing to let ourselves recognize that what we are is not just a caterpillar, and allow ourselves to, in this time of coronavirus, take a good look at the virus that's in our mind so that we can begin to say no to that. And then we live in the paradox of I am E equals MC squared. I am energy and so are you. So the soul in me sees the soul in you. Namaste. The spirit in me acknowledges God in you. We've got to get comfortable that we're all nothing more than little mini me's for God, and accept that role and then live that full out. Because when you live that full out, love, joy, and peace must follow. Because who are you going to be separate from? Who are you going to be upset with? Who are you going to be judging? Who are you going to be comparing to? Who are you going to be stealing from? Who are you going to be considering better than you? It would not happen with a mind that has been trained to realize God's laws. All right, so let me open this up. I would love to hear from you. I know that was a mouthful, but I just love sharing this stuff. Can you guys tell that I get excited? So I do want to hear from you. Doris, share your thoughts. What did you think about today's conversation?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, what excited you about it?
It just all seems to make sense logically. It just makes sense to me. I don't know. I can't believe that I haven't heard this before and it gone into me. I mean, I feel like I've been wasting time, and I'm so glad I don't have to waste any more time. Just, being caught up in the silly drama of the world, the ego world.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing. It is amazing. Thank you. I'm so glad that you've heard this. You've heard me say this in lots of different ways, basically the same message. It's just today got put together in a way that for you clicked.
Yeah.
Good. I love hearing that. That's my aim, is to help click.
Awesome.
Good. Well, let's see. What about you, Miss Elisa? What were your thoughts on this presentation?
I like the idea of being eternal and infinite, because I guess in the past year I've thought about my loved ones not being with me anymore, but I want to understand that everybody is eternal. So I don't have to be super, super upset when people die, Yeah. So I like eternal.
Yes. Do you get upset when a movie star completes a role for a movie and then he doesn't play that role again? Does that bother you?
No.
Okay. So your loved ones that completed their roles, they're on to another role. They're playing another part in another movie. And it's still your movie because we're all in the same one, because God is. So think of your relatives as movie stars. And when they leave, give them an Oscar. Great performance.
Yeah.
And we begin to acknowledge everybody played their part full out. And our work is to be like a person in the audience and don't get all freaked out when the actor bows and is complete. Because an actor, unless it's like a soap opera person who loves the same role over and over and over again, and even there they get creative because some of them get killed and come back and it's amazing what soap opera actors and actresses do. But yes, I'm so glad that you realize that we're eternal. So if you end up with any fears around death, in that moment that you have that fear, just say, wait a second, I can shift this thought and lift my vibration, because we have to lift out of the density of fear and lift to God's perspective. Oh, I just had a fear that I'm finite. Let me go back to remembering that I'm infinite. And in your mind, begin to shift and lift your perception to God's perception instead of the lower human in a cell perception.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
Awesome. And what about you, Miss Angela? So glad that you came back and are joining us.
Hi, Lina. I really like that analogy you just used with the movie. I've lost, my mom and then my dad, and I feel that. I feel that their spirit and their souls have gone on, and sometimes very much a part of me. But it's an interesting, because now I've got a grandbaby, and what a gift. And there's just a lot with the virus. And my wife has an autoimmune disorder, so I'm kind of like going, all right, let's get someplace in quarantine and be very protective. But at the same time, I don't want to be ruled by the fear of it, you know?
Well, and that's where, so I want you to feel into this thought. I'm going to give you two thoughts. One thought that is a body thought, a human thought that puts you, makes you feel tight and tense, and one that lets you feel at ease and at peace. So the thought, let me go take, you said it was your daughter that has the autoimmune disorder?
No, my wife.
Oh, your wife. Okay. So let me go with my wife, and let's go get away from as many people as we can, so we can protect her, because we need to save her life. Because if we don't do that, she could possibly get sick and die. How does that make you feel?
It increases the fear.
Yeah. Does that make you feel tight and tense?
When I think about it in that way, it does.
Yes. And I want you to think about it in that way. So I'm giving you the exact thoughts to think.
Yeah.
I got to protect her, because if I don't, she's going to die. And then if she dies, I'm going to be left alone. If I'm left alone, oh my gosh, I can't be happy. I can't be joyful. All those things are part of the thought system that confines you, which is all protect, protect, protect. It's all about getting and protecting.
Yes.
So now I'm going to invite you to step out of that box.
Okay.
So here's the thought that I want you to think. I have been infused with incredible love for this other human being, this other expression of God who has come into my life that I totally adore and adores me. Well, we have this beautiful place in the mountains, and now we've got a wonderful excuse with the coronavirus, because I love me and I love her. Why don't we just go up there and just have an extended vacation? How often does the world give us an extended vacation? This is so cool. And I'm a powerful creator, and I deserve to be happy, and I deserve to be at peace. So let's go to the mountains and enjoy this. What happened to you? What are you feeling?
Oh, much lighter. And I've had the majority of my thought processes have been on that side of the coin.
But they're not consistent.
You have some fluctuation, and especially when Lynn gets fearful,
Yes. So when one of you gets fearful, so what happens is that in the span of a short period of time, you think you're one with all that is, you feel good. So let me increase it so you can see what I'm doing here with the colors. So you're feeling yellow light, bright. You know the truth of who you are. And she feels that way. And then here, the two of you can go to the mountains and have a good time. And then she starts to get a little nervous, and she starts to get a little green. I mean, she starts to get concerned. And if she goes down the path of real fear, she goes here. If she goes there, you may go down with her. And before you know it, there may be two of you who are drowning inside of that fear.
Right.
But if you say, okay, let me shift and lift, I'm going to change my mind, and you come up here, and she's still in her fear, and you say, you know what, sweetie? Why are we wanting to be with each other? Because we want more time with each other. So isn't that why? You don't want to die because you want to have a couple extra weeks, months, years. Okay. So say to her, while you are blue, because this is the same for you, while you are blue, you know that you're actually killing yourself, because when we confine ourselves in fear, we're activating the chemicals that add the stress, that create the fight or flight, that sends us into a state of poisoning ourselves. So say, let's enjoy the time that we have together. And then if you really want to go to the place that you don't want to just waffle from time to time, you want to be steady, you have got to make a decision that you're not going to think by yourself, that you're going to think with God's laws. And when you make the decision you want to think with God's laws, if she wants to stay there or go down, you don't have to go down with her. You can stay in the place that I did with my son when he was doing drugs, and you've heard my story.
Yeah.
You stay up here and you say, well, if you want to use your thoughts right now to make yourself sick, that's perfectly okay. because I know you are an eternal being. You're infinite, just like I am. You're a powerful creator, and you get to create what you want to create. If right now you want to create feeling bad because your thoughts are in your mind, you have free will to think that. All right, go think that. But I am going to stay in a place of holding you as an eternal being, and I am going to enjoy you while I have you here. So I am going to choose to honor God's laws. And instead of thinking on my own and boxing myself in, I am going to free you to think what you want to think, and I will be free. And that's how you use your free will.
Okay.
You don't have to go down to anybody's fear, because your fears are never going to save somebody from their fears. Your fears add to their fears. It validates their fears. It gives them evidence. It gives them a mirror for them to think, oh, me being scared makes sense because now the two of us are scared. Two people drowning doesn't save anybody.
Right. Right. Good point.
But you are so free that you can descend if you want to. That's
right.
what this unconditional love is. God is saying, you can make yourself miserable. But if you don't pull yourself out of that, God will give you, not because God is giving us a virus, we have created all the obstacles through our thinking. So if we need to have a 2x4 hit us, if we need a car accident, if it's not the coronavirus, we are going to get exactly what we need to snap us out of what it is that we're believing. Because if you don't like feeling condensed, don't do it. And I know, easier said than done, easier said than done.
Yeah.
This was years for me to do this. But my work is to remind you that you're powerful, and whether you feel good or you feel bad, it's all under your control.
Right.
Only by the thoughts that you're choosing in that moment to be your truth. Because once you say, this is the right thought for me to think, I should be scared, then your ego has, all it's done, it puts you in a box, you're going to suffer. But so what? So you die of suffering, you die in depression, end up with a heart attack. You're infinite. You're going to come back in the next lifetime. That's why Abraham says, you're just going to croak. It's no big deal. To the infinite beings, they don't join us in our pity party because they know, as Jesus know, all right, I forgive you. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know that I'm eternal. And that's what we have to love ourselves enough to claim our eternalness. So we stop being worried about our temporary experience, because bodies are temporary. Right.
Thank you.
Of course, we don't want to play the same role forever. We got to get comfortable with that. We enjoy the creativity. We're infinite beings. Who else would like to speak up? Just unmute yourself. And if you, any thoughts or comments about today, I'd love to hear from you. And as always, I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel. It'll be available later on. So if you like this, go to my YouTube channel. You can share it from there. You can please leave your comments on that channel. Like my channel. Help me spread the word. I just want to remind people that they are magnificent and powerful. Miss Patrice, it's good to see you. What were your thoughts about today's conversation? Oh, there we go. You're unmuted now.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I turned off my own camera so I can't see it on the screen to distract me. I wanted to say thank you so much for the message about not giving in to the fears and bringing the vibrational level down, because that's a pitfall for me right now.
Exactly.
Everybody at work is talking about what's going to happen to our jobs, what's happening to our business, what's happening here and there, and just a lot of speculation that is related to the virus. And then on top of it, my own department is reorganizing right now, so there's already a lot of what's going to happen.
Yes.
So it's like a double dose.
Yeah.
And just to stay above all of that in the constant conversation that I'm getting from others, just to stay above it is it takes some work. But it can be done, and it's so important, because I'm really conscious about not releasing like the cortisol and all those stress hormones.
Exactly.
Because that's a 48-hour process before they can all process through my system. I can't keep giving up 2 days a week or more. If I just keep getting stressed out day after day, I lose time and energy from being productive. And it's so simple when you can break it down that way.
Yeah.
And I find that to be so, so helpful. And I really appreciate that message.
Oh, well, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much. I love getting that feedback. It really is simple. We are divine, infinite beings. We are eternal. We are creative. We get to have as many incarnations as we want. All of us have probably had, if not hundreds, thousands, maybe 10,000, maybe more than that. I don't know. We're infinite. There's no way to have numbers on that. And here's the whole benefit of aligning with God's laws is that you return to yourself your creative power. You take it from bodies outside of you for you to have power. You take it away from the government for you to have power. You take it away from the money for you to have power. And it's not that we don't need those things, is that we have given them power. And when they move, and they must move because this is an impermanent world, our foundation is shaken because we have built our house on sand that moves. You know, you can have a Republican governor or president, you like them, and all of a sudden you get your laws. Then you get the opposite. Ooh, you lost your foundation. And we are kept in imbalance because we are looking for something that is inherently impermanent. God's laws do not change. That is something that is forever. That is the law. But if you're not grounded in that unchangeable part in you, what changes outside is going to rock your world. And not because it's trying to hurt you, it's going to rock you because you're not grounded in the truth that will help you. You're not grounded in your wholeness. So of course you're going to get hurt when something shifts. And this is an invitation for us to see now more than ever that we should not be depending on anything external for our safety. More importantly, we need to come back to our love, joy, and peace. We need to find our center, get peaceful, begin to get more creative, and begin to change the laws that man has created so that they're more in alignment with God's laws, in alignment with the laws of unconditional love, which states we're going to have compassion with people who have made mistakes. We're going to forgive them, because if Jesus can forgive somebody for what they didn't know what they were doing, we can certainly forgive the crazy people who've been operating under so much fear. You know that every greedy person out there is full of fear. Their fear that there's not enough. That's what greed is all about. Those who are walking around in victimhood, they're afraid that they're going to lose their money. They're in fear because they don't understand abundance. They don't understand that we are the ones who create it. If we come back to our center, we're going to find so many things that want to be expressed, that our ability to create and come up with ways of trading, of assisting, of helping one another, we will actually do more for the economy. We will do more for the peace on earth. We will do more for the expansion of what is good for all. When we begin to align with the law that is unchanging, then we can deal with the changing with compassion, with collaboration and co-creation, like the indigenous people who have not overbuilt and polluted their waters and created a money system that is suffocating those people. That does not happen. It only happens to the indigenous when they begin to believe the white man's laws, and things happen that they begin to lose their own centering. So unless somebody else has something that you want to say, I want to go ahead and do an affirmative prayer for us and affirm the truth of who we are as God created us. And I want to use something out of the Course in Miracles. So if you want to unmute yourself. Miss Karen, were you going to?
No, I'm just trying to get my phone to work right.
Oh, okay. So you were not going to share?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Were you wanting to share?
Well, yes, I'm having a little hard time hearing. I wanted to tell you, I'm trying to focus on all the positive messages that you have about fear, etc., and not get hooked on semantics like I usually do, and
Yeah.
meaning. But there was one that kind of got me stuck for a little bit, and that is, you said that God, that all words were written by man, and that the truth is God. But most of the words that we follow is from men that believe that they believed in God or heard from God. So I kind of started analyzing that too much.
So then don't follow the laws of man. Don't follow the words that man tells you, and create your own relationship with the source of all that is, because it's in you. Begin to cultivate a conversation with God in you, or creator, whatever you want to call it. So
Right.
all of this should give you permission to begin to get curious about your relationship with the creative source and how you can access that power. You have to make a decision to let go of what humans have said, including what I say, and give yourself permission to become curious and go inside. And what does God want to say to you? Because I promise you, you will get the inspiration, because that creative source never stops speaking to us. We stop listening because we start listening to something external.
Exactly. That's
So,
where I've been stuck.
yes, and that's where everybody gets stuck, because we want to be right about what we believe, and basically to get curious and change our mind requires that we make a decision that maybe what I believe is incorrect, and it's time to put that down, like we put the training wheels down when we finished riding our bicycle with training wheels. At some point, you got to be mature enough, like a 4-year-old that masters riding their bike, and say, I'm mature enough now, let me put down these training wheels, because we would all look pretty silly if we were all riding around with our training wheels when we're 20, 30, 40 years old. Interestingly enough, we go back to them when we're 60. Have you ever been to Florida and gone to a retirement park? Everybody's got training wheels. They got those big old tricycles.
Yeah, they act like a bunch of high school students, actually.
Yeah, they're having fun. Well, thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks for being here. So let me share this from the Course in Miracles in lesson 95. The title of that lesson is I Am One Self, capital S Self, united with my Creator. That means I am coming out of the box and I am the light. I am the essence of the Creator. I am the soul. I know what I am, and I am going to operate from the truth of who I am. And the Course in Miracles lets us know that we have to make a choice. Are we going to believe God's laws, or are we going to operate from man-made perceptions of God's laws? Are we going to operate with things that are different depending on what group you're with? When you come to things that change, they're not of God. God's laws do not change. The weather does change, but it's something that changes for everybody. When you find things that only change for some groups and not others, you're operating with human stuff. God's laws are changeless because they're the same for everybody. Like I said, even if the weather changes, it's the same for everybody. The weather, when it's God's weather, does not select what neighborhood it's going to send a tornado to. It just takes everything that it's in its path. So lesson 95, I am one self united with my Creator. Here's part of the prayer that I want to activate, but I'm going to read what is in here and then I'll take it to the prayer. I am one self united with my Creator, at one with every aspect of creation, and limitless in power and in peace. So if you want to close your eyes, you can. If you don't want to, it's perfectly okay. I sometimes do both. So creative source of all that is, in gratitude, I come to you right now, knowing that when I come to you, I come into me. And when I come into me, I come into unity with this truth that is inside of me, that unites me with you. Because God being energy, and energy being all that everything is made from, then I know that in me is the frequency of the highest vibrating energy that has ever been, ever will be, because it is the infinite energy of creation. It is the infinite energy of love. And now that I'm at a time in this world when I am beginning to realize more clearly now, as things on the outside are moving, are changing, are shifting, I am in such gratitude that I have found the truth of who I am, that I have found the words, the knowingness that are beginning to give me an idea of the kind of foundation that I want to build my thought system on. I want to have a solid foundation that I am not shaken from my core. I'm not shaken from my peace when things outside of me change, because I chose before I incarnated that I would have a temporary human experience. But I got caught up in my human experience and I disconnected from you because other, albeit well-meaning people, taught me that somehow You know, you were not inside of me. And I believed them. And I've been floundering ever since, trying to do things all by myself. And frankly, I'm tired. And in the tiredness of all of humanity, we have activated this virus that is making us all take a rest. So I am grateful that my mind is so powerful and so creative that I created the very thing that is sending me to my room so that I can begin to see how mistaken I was in trusting things that others taught me. Now I want to come to know the truth of who I am. If I trust your laws, they guarantee that I'm going to be experiencing love, joy, and peace. And it's what I've been searching for my whole life. But I've been looking for it in all the wrong places. I am so grateful that today I'm being reminded that it's inside of me. But for me to make the shift from trusting the truth that is inside of me and stop the seeking, I'm going to have to experience the dismantling, which is often very uncomfortable, the dismantling of my ideas, my beliefs, that my safety, my love, my joy, my peace is outside of me. And as I move through that process of discomfort, of letting go what I used to think was so solid, thank you for sending me people who will support me, teachers, teachings, books, movies, songs, nature, because all of it reminds me of the magnificence that is in me. I know it's in me. I felt it when I was a child, and every now and again I have glimpses of it, but I let my human mind pull me out of that. So I know that today I need to put back on those training wheels and begin to learn. Get curious about what you are. Get curious about how powerful I am. Begin to accept my eternalness, because there's no point in being afraid of dying, because that's just keeping me from enjoying this temporary human experience. So I rather live full out. I rather live in peace. I rather live in a state of knowing that I am eternal and I am going to have many lives. Thank goodness the Hindus know that, and they don't suffer when it comes to death. So I want to free myself from the fears of death so that I can use that power to activate the well-being that my body needs to stay healthy. Because I'm going to align with the true source of my power, which is my soul. My eternal soul knows that I am eternal. Let me ask that one to activate that truth. And when I can begin to claim it and know that I'm entitled to miracles, I will absolutely, completely change my life. So I know that it's always within my power, because you gave me free will to will whatever I want to experience. I can will myself into bondage with fear, or I can will myself into love and experience true freedom. Thank you for making me so powerful, Almighty Creator, creative source of all that is, God, Source, Spirit, all the names that you've been called. At the end of the day, I am that I am. And now I'm just going to go about the rest of this day having fun and recognizing that the most incredible source of fun and joy and ease exists inside of me. I'm taking full responsibility to activating that for me today. And when others don't remember that truth for them, I'm not going to join in on their pity parties, because I am going to be too determined to hold my vibration, because I am going to get really comfortable with feeling good, feeling at ease and at peace. And one day I won't be willing to give that up for anybody else, because I'll know that they have it in them and it's up to them to find it. But for now, I'm just grateful that I have been reminded of this truth today. And as the Course in Miracles states, I am one self. I am united with my Creator. I am at one with every aspect of creation. I am limitless in my power and in my peace. And knowing that is my truth, I extend it to everybody on this planet that could use a little extra certainty of the truth of who we are. I know it for me, and now I know it for everybody else. And so it is. And with that, I am so grateful that you joined me today. This hour of total power and recharging and plugging into the source was absolutely a delicious experience for me, because I receive as I give. And that's the amazing thing. Once you find your truth, you're going to want to share it, because it will feel so good to share truth. Thank you all so much for being here. And I hope you come back. And I'm going to mute everybody so that you guys can say goodbye and everybody can hear you.
Beautiful, Lina.
Thank you, Lina.
Thank you all so much. Remember, it's on my YouTube. Oh, by the way, I will be doing my Shift and Lift workshop, not on the 11th, which is next Saturday. I'm going to do it on the 18th, just to get us through some crazy things that are going to be happening in the next week or so. So stay clear that you are unshakable. And as we move through things that are coming, on April the 18th, I will have the workshop ready for us, but I will let you all know about it. And sign up
Sounds
for
good.
the
Thank
newsletter
you. Happy weekend.
so that you know about it. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Lina. Thank you. Love you all.
Thank you. Love you too, Natalia.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
So much love. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.